Welcome to Millennials with Money. My name is Johnny and I'm back with another interview today. I'm going to be interviewing a lady called Tara from the US. Her and her husband Chris have achieved financial independence and they have moved over here to Spain. So in this video we're going to be asking Tara a little bit about their financial independence journey, why they wanted to go for it, how they went for it and why they picked Spain. So let's get right into it. All right, Tara, it's great to have you on the channel. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Great, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So obviously you're a follower of Spain Speaks. That's how we sort of came across each other. Seeing you in the comments, and your channel caught my eye. And having a look at what you guys do, I thought it'd be great to get you on the channel. So that's why you're here today.
Thanks. Yeah, and I've checked out your channel, and I really love it. And I especially love the apartment video and the two videos about fire. And I always love watching you once a week on Stuart from Spain Speaks channel.
That's good. That's good. So, your first time on this channel. So, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself? And obviously, you do this with your husband Chris as well, who couldn't be with us today. He has work commitments in the US. But yeah, tell us a bit about yourself and your husband Chris.
Great. So we're from the United States. Specifically, we are Floridian. We were born in Florida, but we have a permanent residence, which I refer to kind of as our home headquarters in Central Florida, and we maintain that residence. And Chris goes back and forth between the United States and Spain, but I have been deeply rooted in Spain. I arrived at the end of 2020. And I've been here ever since. I have not returned to the United States. I have no plans to return to the United States. So far, so good.
Perfect. A nice introduction and a nice outline, essentially, of what we're going to cover all through this video. So you're in Spain. You're both from the United States. He works, you don't. All of this will come around to all of this will come around to in more detail later on in the video. But yeah, so let's start maybe with your YouTube channel. So
okay,
she saves, he invests, they travel. I think the name basically covers it all, right?
It's very self-explanatory, and it's a mouthful, and we did not think about the acronym, and I would just advise your viewers not to think about the acronym too closely or too carefully.
So how did the idea come about? What got you inspired to start YouTube, and what do you hope to achieve on YouTube?
Well, it really came from our habits and lifestyle. Chris, my husband, has been investing since he was a teenager. He used to invest in penny sheet pink stocks, which was like the worst kind of riskiest investment. And he would write the stock ticker symbol and what he thought it was going to be worth on the mirror. And his parents didn't like that. And then he started investing in large cap stocks. And it was really in 2008 when he bought his first rental property that he really just started leveraging almost every dollar he earned by investing it. And so he kind of assumed this identity in the relationship as the investor. And I mean, we've always had jobs. We've always worked multiple jobs simultaneously. We always had like a full-time job and a side gig or two. So his background is sales, and then he went into this kind of weird industry called endurance event management, where you time and direct races like 5Ks, triathlons, and marathons. And so he started his own small business, and I was working in the nonprofit sector, making very low salaries, and then we were working races on the weekends, and I would try to pull in some research gigs on the side to make more money, but I would just hoard my money. I would just save it. I didn't know how to invest, and I thought it sounded like a great way to lose your money. I'm risk averse. He's attracted to risk. I have a fear of failure. He is motivated by the possibility of success. We couldn't be more opposite in that way. And so I was skeptical at first, and I was actually kind of critical of his investments, as were his parents, as were kind of everyone in his life. But nothing can stop him. I mean, he just really has a lot of confidence, and he just kept learning more and more. And he learned how to like average down, and he bought his first rental property right after the 2008 financial crisis. So he won it at an auction for the price of a car. It was $24,500. No, I'm not missing a zero. And it's just luck, right? It was like timing. Like we lived in a small university town, and the university always had a housing problem. So we could always fill the rooms. We could always rent out the rooms. So finally, I started realizing that if I just leave my money in a checking account or a savings account, interest is going to eat away at it. And after 10 years, it's going to be worth half of what it was in the present day. And so I gave him a little bit of money a few years ago. 5 years ago, I gave him $5,000 for a condo on Daytona Beach. And they sold it right before I came to Spain. And his dad went in on the deal too. And I got back $10,000. And I thought, oh, wow, that works. Let's do that again. And we basically talked about, we just want to live really cheaply and then just kind of throw a dart at a map, and wherever it lands, go there for the weekend or the month. Or we really don't want to live to work anymore. We want to work to live. And we've kind of closed that chapter in our lives where we were working 80-hour weeks. For what? Ultimately to be able to do what you want, spend the time how you want, and we value experiences. So this method that we'd come up with me giving him money for down payment for our houses, or him teaching me how to invest in index funds or ETFs, how to open up a Robinhood account, how to invest in cryptocurrency. It was a really cute dynamic so that we basically could buy our freedom and just travel. So when I lost my jobs in the fall of 2020, it just wasn't a big deal. It just didn't matter anymore. It was part of our plan for me to leave my jobs 2 years later anyways. So we ran the numbers and we're just like, well, there's no sense in going back on the job market for 2 years. Let me just retire now. That was a long answer to your question.
No, so that's a really great answer. So I think we covered almost every element of your channel there. So the she saves part, we got that.
Yeah.
The he invests. I think we've determined that be greedy when others are fearful sums up Chris.
Yeah.
So we got that. And then the travel part. So you didn't want to be in the rat race as people call it anymore. And and that was what brought you to Spain. So. We'll come back to that in a second. So, and what do you hope to achieve on YouTube? So why did you want to start the channel? Talking about all these different areas of your life.
Well, people kept asking us questions, and I was in some FIRE digital groups, like on Facebook, to learn more about the movement and to report and share my knowledge. And people they were so knowledgeable, but they seemed to treat us like our situation was unique. Like we had a unique story, like what we were doing was really interesting and amazing. And so I thought that could be an interesting story to share, but I didn't want to go on YouTube and share it. And Chris has been asking me to do YouTube for a decade, and I just kept telling him, well, you just want me to make a fool out of myself. You just basically want me to dance goofy on camera or do something. He's like, no, just talk. You need an audience. You need somebody to listen to you. Just talk. You have a lot to say. And it turns out I think I do have a lot to share about our experiences and what I've learned. I've had a really weird life. And I think that YouTube provides a platform and an audience for that, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, probably as part of the FIRE community, you know of Our Rich Journey. So Armand and Christina, the couple who retired in Portugal.
I love watching them.
Yeah, they have a great channel as well. But honestly, I think with your story, it's equally as unique. It's equally as inspiring, and I think it's fantastic that you're sharing it on YouTube. And I think definitely you have a lot of potential to inspire, educate a lot of people on YouTube with your story. So. Really well done to both of you, both for what you've achieved through financial independence and what you're doing on YouTube.
Thanks.
Great. So coming back to Spain. So why Spain, Tara?
I love Spain. I'm obsessed with Spain.
A lot of people love Spain
Yes,
and are obsessed with
it's a
Spain.
brand, right?
Myself included, yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot in common, you and I. Yeah, I think people come here and they get bitten by the Spanish bug, either the Madrid bug or the Valencian bug. And I say that I left Spain. I'm always leaving Spain, and I'm always crying on the airplane on the way home. Yeah, I always end up returning though. But the first time I had to go through the horrible process of leaving Spain was in 2004. I studied abroad for 6 months at Universidad Complutense, and that was my introduction to the country and to the city, and it just changed my life forever. And I tell people, my body left Spain, but my mind never did. It was always like, I'm going to get back there one day. And I did. I went back 5 times. This is the 5th time I've been here.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, Spain, it's obviously an incredibly attractive destination, particularly in Europe, citizens of the EU can come here, enjoy a fantastic quality of life, have very low financial requirements to be able to come here and live. Obviously for citizens back in the UK, that's changed a bit.
Yes, to say.
And
thanks to Brexit, it's not
changed,
as easy anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a bit more, it's like it probably is for you guys, but I think even still, for someone who's pursuing financial independence and is serious about it, then Spain it's probably a reasonable objective destination to retire to, right?
Yes, it's not as cheap as living for free in Central Florida. I mean, my mortgage is paid off.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But we didn't have health insurance at the tail end of the career / world of work experience, and that's happened to us a handful of times in the U.S. And it's really dangerous to be without health insurance in the U.S. So this is kind of a manageable situation where we can pay $700 or $800 a year instead of a month for health insurance, and live in a major European capital that is the cheapest in Western Europe, I think, other than Portugal. So it's expensive, but I think you mentioned in one of your videos, in comparison to other major capital cities in Europe, it's actually not that expensive.
Yeah, it's by Spanish standards, Madrid is quite expensive, as is the likes of Barcelona. But by European standards, it's a very affordable quality of life for people who want to come here and live, whether it's the expat life or retire here. If you have the financial means to survive, then you can live a good quality of life at a reasonable price here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Great. Now, you said that you were living for free in Central Florida.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's got a lot of people watching asking how. So let's talk about your investments, because that's essentially how you managed to do it, right? You have a large real estate portfolio back in the US. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that.
Sure. We got lucky with timing, but basically, if you have about enough money for a down payment, which varies depending on the cost of the property you're trying to buy. But if you can buy at a time when everything's seriously undervalued, like right after the 2008 financial crisis, then you can pick up good deals, especially if you have cash. The properties are not the kind of properties that a bank will provide a mortgage for. I mean, if it's missing a light switch or a fan, the bank won't provide a mortgage, and these needed some serious work. And so my husband had $10,000 saved, and he asked for, I think, $10,000 from his father and $5,000 from his brother. And the 3 of them went in on the deal, and they bid on a house for $25,000 in an auction, and they won it. And there's a long story behind that, because at first they accepted the offer and then declined it, and then they accidentally said the house was only $2,400, which if we were really mean, we would have just signed that. But basically, once you buy one, you can buy many more. So you invest $10,000 or $15,000 in fixing it up. We had the skills within the family between my brother-in-law, both brothers-in-law, Chris's brother and his brother-in-law, and his dad and Chris. Chris's dad is a licensed contractor in the county, and one brother is a professional commercial electrician, and the other is a professional commercial air conditioning. I don't know what you call those people, professionals, technician.
Yeah, okay.
And so, I mean, the three of them, the four of them can basically build a house from scratch, I mean, from the ground up to code. We were able to rent out each room for, at first just 400 or 500, and then we converted like a porch to a room and a garage to a room. So then like the cash flow, we were able to charge more for each room as we improved the house, as the cost of living went up and inflation went up. And it was walking distance from the university. And then the value of the house went up immediately. Like as soon as we started renovating, it went up. It was severely undervalued. But after a year or two, the value had gone up considerably. So then we had equity, and we could borrow against that equity, and we could take out a line of credit from the bank and use it as a down payment for another house. And you can just keep doing that until you can't, maybe, like until you're over leveraged and your debt to asset ratio's so bad that the bank says we won't lend to you. But there are other ways. I mean, you can borrow from friends and family, you can peer-to-peer lending, you can have a hard money lender that you know. I mean, there's different ways. And eventually my husband started borrowing from me. He'd noticed that I'd had like this massive emergency fund, and it's like, do you want to invest any of that? And usually I just wanted the money right away. I was like, you better pay me back in a month. And he was like, today saying like, you're silly, because you should have said, I don't want the money back. I want 10% of the rental income, or and eventually I learned how to say that and how to do that. So that's basically how we did it. 10 years later, 18 properties later, we sold a handful, but that's basically how we did it.
Yeah, it's very impressive, very impressive. So so you bought the houses, you renovated them. I understand it's quite a popular concept in the US, is flipping houses. Yeah. So, renovating and selling the house for a profit. Now, that's not been your strategy, or at least overall. I understand you flipped a couple, but you've you've held a lot of your houses. So what's the reason that you decided to hold and not, flip?
You can make more money houses in the long run if you hold. I mean, the inverse wealth is patience. So you make the rental income over 5 years or 10 years if you hold, and the value of the house is hopefully going up. Usually that's what happens, and if you've made improvements, it's more likely to happen. So then if you sell it later, you've made X amount, 100,000 in rental income to pay off that mortgage if you have one. And then when you go sell it, it's worth more than if you would have flipped it 6 weeks after you bought it. And then your mortgage is paid off, so it's all profit. So I think the long-term strategy that's more profitable is to hold and rent and then sell.
Absolutely, yeah. You see a property as like a cash cow, and essentially that rental income is what allows you to do what you're doing now, right? That rental income, it allows you to, it has allowed you to stop working and move to Spain, and you could enjoy your life here and live off the rental property income from the US.
Yeah,
which is great. Yeah.
Basically, that's what's happened. We've just been able to get into that position in the last 12 months. Because we were really using all the rental income to improve the properties. But once you pay $15,000 for a roof, you don't need another roof for another 15 to 30 years. You can only buy so many roofs. Like, you can only repair the properties so much that eventually, like, everything's fixed, everything's new. All the mortgages are paid down except for 3. Chris has been aggressively paying off 30-year mortgages in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, and it's good to see as well that you understand the risks that come with debt. You'll know of Dave Ramsey, of course. Over leveraging was his demise at the start of his real estate career, and of course you're going down the leverage route to buy real estate, but it seems, at least from my perspective, that you're managing that debt responsibly and you're managing it well. So that's good.
Thanks.
To see as well.
I mean, we had 18 at the total, but we sold 4, so I think we have 14 now. But we don't have 14 mortgages. I mean, I think that would be unmanageable and dangerous, and an example of over leveraging. We have 3 mortgages, and they're very close to being paid off in the next 6 months. I mean, we only have like 30 on one and 40 on another and 20 on another. These were originally $100,000 mortgages, or 130, and of course, as time went on, the houses got more expensive, so it got less lucrative as we moved further away from 2008, essentially. It's just harder to do now. And I don't want to say like, oh, I struck oil in my backyard, therefore you can too. Just copy what I did. I mean, that's not true, and that's not honest, and that's not fair, and like that's not recognizing, our privileges.
Yeah, I think that the difficult thing is understanding that you can't simply just copy and paste someone's approach and use it yourself. You can be inspired by it, you could take elements of it, but ultimately your situation is your own, and you have to treat it as such.
Everybody's situation is different and unique. Yeah, we say that on the channel.
Yeah, great. Now, I understand you've tried to also get into the Spanish property market, but you've not had quite the same, it's not quite been the same as in the US.
I don't find it as appealing. So what's I'm probably not going to find any property market as appealing, because when you buy houses for the price of cars after the 2008 financial crisis, and they're right by your house where you live, so you can just kind of monitor everything, you kind of understand that market. It's like here there are regulations, and they're great because they protect people. I mean, you can only raise the rent so much, and like I know I sort of sound like a slumlord, but it's just not going to be as profitable if you're taxed on the purchase and on the sale, and you can only raise it 4 or 5% in line with the cost of living. And I could live with all of that if I felt like I dealing with sellers that were forthcoming and transparent and giving me all the information I needed to know about the properties, but they're not. So
yeah, it is quite it's a different ball game trying to buy property in Europe. I imagine I see obviously as a European, I see videos on real estate and real estate models now to get into it in the US, and I look at it, and honestly, to me, I just think surely it can't be that straightforward. Because when you look at through all the hoops you have to jump through in Europe, from the likes of regulatory hurdles, like you say, even just like down payments in Europe, in Spain in particular, they can ask you for, most banks will ask you for at least 20% down payment, whereas in the US, I think you don't need that much. So
No, it depends on the type of loan, but we've been able to put 3% down or 5% down.
That's crazy.
Here, they're going to make us do 50%.
Yeah,
for foreigners.
yeah. I mean, 3% in Europe is unheard of. That's yes, it's a completely different ball game. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a special FHA loan. Maybe it wasn't 3, maybe it was 5, but it was low. I remember that, and it had to be the primary residence. We bought a property for 124, and it was 10,000 down. That's it. So it's not very much down to be, not very high down payment.
Okay. Yeah, so not in the European property game as of right now. No. And
I can't really navigate your market. Like, the only thing I understand is that interest rates are really low, and that's really appealing. I can't predict what's going to happen with the value of houses. I mean, nobody can, but I don't think it's going to be hugely profitable. I don't think I'm going to be able to buy something low and sell high.
I mean, it's a completely different real estate market. If you look at, let's take Spain for example, you buy in a city like Madrid or Barcelona, then you're going to get regular tenants because there's a constant demand for places to live in these cities. But if you buy a place on maybe the coast or down in the south like Andalusia, then it's more than likely going to be a holiday rental, and it's going to be a seasonal kind of accommodation. And as we've seen in 2020, then the tourist market is highly correlated to the economy. So that's it's a bit of a risk.
Yeah, I don't feel confident about the Spanish market, as confident as I do about the U.S. real estate market, which is out of control right now. Prices are very high. It's a seller's market. But we don't feel like selling. But it is pretty straightforward to buy and sell. I mean, what you see, there's a title company, and there's a bit of a process to it. To get a mortgage, the bank will kind of put you under a white light and interrogate you a bit. But I still think there's way more procedures here.
I'm sure of that. I'm completely sure of that. Yeah. Yeah. So obviously it was harder to get a mortgage on a property here in Spain as US citizens. Another problem you've probably had, or maybe had as US citizens, is trying to invest in Europe or opening a bank in Europe, because, you know, I assume you and Chris are US passport holders, and the same will apply for any green card holders. There's a lot more hoops to jump through when you're trying to open a bank account. They'll ask you to fill out additional forms. You might not be able to open a brokerage account if you're a US person in Europe. So with that in mind, I imagine a lot of your investments, non-real estate investments, I imagine that they're back in the US, right? Yeah.
They are. Yeah, and I mean, the US stock market is, I have one Spaniard described it as a paraíso fiscal. He's just so jealous. He took me to an investment bank and sat me down with the director of the bank, and the director showed me the return on investment rates, and it was really small. I mean, after all of the fees, we would only make 1 or 2%. We'd have to put in 20 or 30,000 and leave it there for at least 5 years, and that wasn't appealing to me. It was a boutique investment bank. And I mean, I can give you the name privately. I don't want to call them out. But
yeah.
So then we just went to Santander and we opened up a commercial regular bank account, and it was surprisingly wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But there were things that happened, like our email went to her junk mail, and we had to keep coming back to the same bank branch in person to check on the account, and we had to put euros in through the ATM to see the account. That's crazy. And we didn't have our passports on us, so she trusted us enough to go back to our hotel and scan the passports. It was kind of wild, but we eventually did it, and 3 or 4 months later, they started processing the account, and we could tell that it was active. But for a while, we just kept getting fraud notices that they were investigating us to make sure we weren't money laundering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is in 2018. I mean, we were tourists then, and they'd send the notices to our house in Spanish, and I'd look up these words in the dictionary and translate it. Chris, what does our bank account work or not? I don't understand.
Gosh, yeah. Well, fortunately, I think the banks and in the digital space have moved forward a lot since 2018. So if you were to do the same process today, you'd probably be able to open an account online within the space of an hour. You know, you're ready to go and you've got money transferred in. But yeah.
Like N26. I've heard N26 is really good.
Like Revolut, for example, like Vivid, you know, there's a whole load of them out there, digital banks. Yeah. But yeah, it is possible, as I demonstrate on my channel, you know, you can invest in the S&P 500, the US stock markets, and get good returns from Europe. But what, you know, Europeans don't necessarily benefit from the tax advantages that you guys maybe get through the likes of a 401k or a Roth IRA. So that's maybe where that comment about the US being paraíso fiscal came from, from that person you spoke to.
I learned that from one of your videos. Actually, I didn't realize that in Europe you can't put money that's already taxed, like pre-taxed, into an IRA or 401k type vehicle and then take it out tax-free when you're...
Well, you can. It really depends on the country is the thing. So, for example, in the UK you can, in France you can, but the UK is the only country, I think, in terms of tax advantages that comes close to the US. Like France, there's a lot more restrictions. You can only invest up to a certain amount over your lifetime. It has to be all in European companies, for example. I think in Spain you might get some tax relief if you invest in a pension plan, but again, you're not going to see that money until you're like 60 or 65. So from a tax advantage perspective, the US is way ahead way ahead of Europe, I think. So yeah.
And how does the European stock market perform compared to like the NASDAQ or the S&P 500 or like, the entire US stock market? I'm under the impression that the growth in Europe is more sluggish and it just don't get like 10-15% returns.
Yeah, you're generally right. If you look at, the major indices, for example, the French, the German indices, they produce positive returns, but, the S&P 500 is knocking it out the park. Even the FTSE 100 in the UK is quite slow these days, with all the Brexit stuff going on. The Spanish index has really struggled since about 2008.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like about Europe, though, is if you can find good dividend companies. I share a couple of them on my channel, but you can get some nice dividend yields in Europe is one of the advantages I find.
That's good to know, because I really am interested in your videos on how Europeans can invest in the American stock market and how Americans can invest in the European stock market, because if I don't want the world to be closed off to the kinds of profits we're able to enjoy, right? If it's just a matter of filling out an extra piece of paperwork, like, it's good to teach them how to do it, and then it's worth doing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, a lot of investing platforms, if you want to invest in the US from Europe, you just have to fill out the W8BEN form. It exempts, essentially, I think it exempts you from double taxation when you buy or sell US stocks and dividends. You've also got index funds and ETFs that have their domicile in Europe, which that replicate the for the likes of the S&P 500, the All World Index, or emerging markets, for example. So it is possible from Europe. Not sure from a US perspective how you could invest in Europe, but I'm sure there's a way you can do it. All right, so now we've talked about your investments. So that's the how of your financial independence. So tell us a bit about the why. So why you pursued FIRE. I know you touched on it a bit at the start, but maybe you can talk about it in a bit more depth now.
Okay, how can I say this delicately? I didn't really like working that much.
Yeah.
That's the why.
Okay.
And I probably shouldn't say too much more. I mean, I had a lot of great experiences and companies that I worked for, and I got the chance to write my job description. Make up my own job for 3 different jobs. I had freedom and flexibility. I was working remotely well before the pandemic. I mean, a decade before. I enjoyed the nature of the tasks, but just everything surrounding the nature of the tasks I did not like.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But your husband, Chris, he's still working, right?
Yeah. I think he really found his calling. I think he found his passion. We're both cross-country runners, competitive runners, but he's way faster than me, and he's just a little superstar in Central Florida, man, like little mini man. He's been in the newspapers for winning races ever since he was little, and people just kind of grew up with him, and I think that helps. Like, I think they want to hire a race director and timer who's local and from the area and like is super fast. Maybe they're biased, they think he's gonna host a better race or something, and I think he's just really clever, like with search engine optimization. Like he named his company 5K Race Director, and that's literally what you search for when you need to hire someone to direct your 5K. So he's the first company that comes up in the search results. He does a lot of clever things like that, and I think he wakes up every day excited to work and to create something new and to build and develop his company.
Well, that's great, because with the two of you, we see two sides of FIRE. It's enabled you to retire. You decided, nope, don't want that anymore. You're chilling. And Chris, he still wants to work. But he can go to work because he enjoys it, and he can go to work thinking, okay, if the worst comes to worst, we're financially independent. I don't have to worry about money. I can give my all. I can focus on my work and do my best every day.
Yeah, and that's what happened during the pandemic. The races obviously trickled to nothing in 2020. starting in March, because governments, including local governments, were not comfortable permitting people to gather hundreds in a crowd at starting lines and in finish lines. Some races had thousands of people in them. Runners were not comfortable going.
Yeah.
So he went from 90 races a year to about a dozen. And so obviously that affects the revenue. But it just really didn't matter. It just ended up, he had less to do. And so he could enjoy his life. He could focus on quality more than quantity. And sometimes he'd introduce himself when people didn't know him as a owner of a real estate company. And that was interesting. I have some public health colleagues who tell me about that. Like, because sometimes I was away working, and they were like, "Do you know your husband is starting to introduce himself as a real estate developer and things like that?" I'm like, "Really? Oh, okay." And that gave me an insight into kind of how he wanted to identify himself. So when there wasn't much revenue from the small business he owned, it was okay because the real estate company generated passive income. And when I lost both my jobs on the same day, it didn't matter either.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But there's a happy end to this fire story, which is good. And again, well done to you both for getting there. You know, how long did it take you to reach fire, by the way, just out of interest?
10
years. Okay, so very doable. Mm-hmm. And you started this while you were working in not-for-profit organizations, right? Or was this after?
Well, I was in the middle of my PhD program. I worked in the nonprofit sector. I mean, higher ed is nonprofit as well. It could be all considered nonprofit, but I worked in the nonprofit sector after undergrad for 3 years, and I just remember saying, we are not going to get ahead by selling our labor to the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
I mean, he was working in sales for $27,000 a year, and he would make sales thresholds that would trigger commissions, and they just would raise the bar and say, well, we're not going to give you your commission. Now you need to sell $500,000 in whatever he was selling. And he'd reach that, and they still wouldn't give him the commission. And so I'd say, like, something has to give. We have to invest, or we have to do something different. It wasn't my idea. I mean, we were living with roommates, moving every few months. We wanted to keep the cost of living very low, and so if we had to pay more than $300 a month in rent, we'd move out. And that's kind of what people in the FIRE movement do. That's one of the methods they used, but we had never heard of the movement. And we were working multiple jobs just like people in the FIRE movement, but we didn't know what it was until I got an article about, at age 28, from a colleague who I suspect was also very frustrated in her job, working 80 hours a week and working, being underpaid. And I remember she was like, "Have you seen this? Have you heard of this?" And I read the whole article. It was a really long article. Yeah. And I was hooked. I was like, we're already doing some of this stuff. Let's do more of it. Yeah. And that's when I started the clock. That I think that was the age when we bought the first rental property too. So
okay, yeah. That's great, yeah. And I think that's one of the things with FIRE. I mean, I probably won't retire early, as they call it, when I reach FIRE. I probably will keep going, working just for a bit, whatever that looks like, whether it's, I
saw your video. Your FIRE number's 45, and I know your issues with the FIRE movement are the retire early definition of just chill and do nothing.
Yeah, I think it's...
You don't want to do that.
I don't want to call it I have an issue with the movement. I just think I think people sometimes have this fantasy-like vision of what FIRE is, when in reality it's just moving your retirement forward, essentially. Sure, if you want to go and chill on the beach and drink beer all day, then great. It's going to take a lot more work, and you're going to need to have a different approach to FIRE. But like normal FIRE, moving your retirement age forward, it's completely achievable. Rant over, anyways. But back to what you were saying. I think that's part of FIRE is like you don't get it all at once. You get it a bit at a time. So you're already doing bits. Having multiple income streams, then reducing your costs to buying assets. That's how it came for you. For me, I started my, let's call it, started my financial independence journey shortly after I got my first job. I'd already learned how to live frugally as a student with no real income, living on savings. And then
that's the best time to start. I wish I had started my first job.
I'm glad for the experience I went through, and it was tough being a student because I still conserve a lot of these frugal habits today. And now, of course, I've learned how to invest. I've learned about saving. I've learned how to structure my finances, my investing strategy, and it's propelling me forward nicely in terms of my financial situation and financial independence. So but yeah, really, really well done. You've got a strategy, and you can, the two of you are both at it. And I think the power of combined income, probably in your case, has definitely made a difference as well, right?
When we were dual income, no kids, we were unstoppable.
Yeah.
We're not dinks anymore. We're sinks because I sunk us. We're still no kids.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
That helps.
Okay. Yeah. So really great. I really loved that. Hearing about your FIRE journey, and it's very inspiring. I hope people watching have become very inspired by it as well. So maybe to finish off, we'll go through some of your favorite things in Spain.
Oh yes.
So your favorite city in Spain is
Madrid, of course. I live in Madrid. We live in Madrid.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's your favorite too.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I love Spain as a country on the whole. Madrid it's a fantastic city. I think.
Yeah.
For young people, for professional opportunities, for authentic Spanish culture, it's one of the best places to be. It's got that mix of Spanish culture. It's very international as well. Very open city. People are really friendly. Great food. So much to do. It's got almost everything you need minus a beach.
Sometimes I see people dress as if they're going to the beach, and I'm fooled. The sun is just shining down. It's 40 degrees Celsius, and I have to remind myself there's no beach in Madrid, Tara. Like they're going to the river or to Retiro by the lake or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So football, soccer team.
Oh, no.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite team?
No, it's whatever team my husband's playing on. He does intramural soccer, and I'll actually go to the games, sit on the bleachers or the grass, and make a book and look up occasionally and be like, "Good job, honey." And
Yeah, great. Your favorite food in Spain?
It's just like a list of cliches.
Yeah.
Albóndigas, croquetas, tortilla española, paella. Ribera del Duero, Rioja, Cava, cocida madrileña. Yeah, basically like all their typical stuff.
Yeah. It's not hard to find any of those in Madrid. Finding the best ones is maybe a bit more of a quest, and probably one of the exciting things to do in the city. I think is try out different foods and different restaurants. It's probably one of the best things.
You say
I
do nothing, but that's what I do. Is I try out different restaurants. It's a very important job. Madrid is a gastronomical paradise.
Absolutely.
There's a channel, Spain Revealed, and they'll tell you which ones are there.
Great channel.
You've seen it? Yeah,
I
love that.
Yeah. That's a great channel as well. Yeah. And let's finish off with your favorite Spanish film or TV series.
La Casa de Papel. I'm learning Spanish from them.
Yeah.
I've seen all 4 seasons, and I can't wait till the 5th comes out.
I'm excited for it as well. There's a lot of Castilian Spanish slang and a lot of fast talking in it, but I think if you are a Spanish learner, it's a very action-packed series, and it's very enjoyable as well to try and learn Spanish from.
The acting is great. The writing is great. There's so many colloquial expressions. So I turn the Spanish subtitles on and I watch it in Spanish. And then I'll go on YouTube, and there'll be all these channels that'll say, "Learn Spanish with Casa de Papel." And then they'll play a scene for 20 minutes, and they'll pick apart the scene and explain to you what each term and phrase means. And then I'll go rewatch that episode, and I'll understand it a lot better. And then eventually I was able to watch the series without having to do that anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think we'll end it there, Tara. It's been really great to have you on the channel. Where can we find you? Where can we find your channel?
Well, it's called She Saves, He Invests, They Travel. I don't have like an info contact at yet.
Yeah.
Email, but if you type that into Google or YouTube, we should come up, and there's about 20 videos right now to entertain yourself with. And
and obviously more and more coming. So
Yeah.
I'll put that link. I'll put the link to your channel in the video description. I'll put a little card.
Thank you.
Put a little card up there as well, so people can click on the pop-up as well. But yeah, it's been great, Tara. I really appreciate your time today. I'm sure a lot of people have learnt a lot and been inspired by this interview. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Johnny, and we should have you on our channel whenever
Absolutely, yeah, and maybe one day we'll meet up for a drink in Madrid.
Yeah, like a tapa or sangria or something.
Yeah. Great. All right. Cool. So I'll speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye. So I hope you enjoyed my interview with Tara. I hope it inspired you, and I hope you learned a lot from it. Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts after watching it. Now check out these videos if you enjoyed this one, and if you're not yet subscribed and you want to see more content like this, then make sure you hit the subscribe button with the notification bell so that you don't miss a single update. I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.